Good day to people in the U.S. and hopefully some of them around the world. Topic this morning is going to be energy for the U.S. and the world. You know, folks, I've been doing, by the way, my name is Delll York. I'm coming to you from Houston, Texas. And for the last 5 years, I've just gotten a burden to really study and work on alternative energy because we're running out of oil and we're having to buy oil from people that don't like us, and they hold it as hostage to us. And then environmentally, we're polluting our world, and eventually our children and grandchildren are going to have to pay the price. Are we so selfish that we only think about the right now, about the money that we can make right now, and give no thought to our children or our grandchildren? That it just really has to sadden our Lord, and it should sadden us. I want to read you a note that I copied here from the internet on energy from corn versus sugarcane. And this is pretty interesting for the corn lovers. United States Senate ethanol, U.S. or United States corn, Brazil. The U.S. heavily taxes ethanol from Brazil in order to keep it from competing with corn ethanol that we grow and process here in the United States. To be fair, the United States imposes a 54 cents per gallon tariff on all imported ethanol. It doesn't specifically target Brazilian ethanol. The reason behind this tariff is that if foreign ethanol was introduced to the United States at market value, the ethanol program at home would be undermined and could not compete with the lower cost of ethanol produced from sugarcane and other high sugar crops. This would effectively kill the corn ethanol programs that are currently in their infant stages. All right, folks, I'm going to stop at this paragraph and let's talk about this for a minute. Why do we want to do something that is so uncompetitive that we can't compete? I mean, what's wrong? What are our leaders thinking about? I do not understand that. And I would just encourage everyone here that is listening to me or hears me or to talk about people to write your senators, write your congressmen, say, listen, we have to compete in the world now. We can't build a fence around ourselves and say that it's just all about the U.S. That no longer is counting. That's why China is going to eventually take control over us, because they work, they produce, they don't get ridiculously high wages for unskilled jobs or medium skilled jobs. And so, you know, the U.S. is a great nation. We have helped lead the world in caring for others, and that's one reason God has tolerated some of our other nonsense that we do. And so I just encourage everyone, we have to get involved, folks. We can't just sit there and worry about just ourselves, worry about just our check for this week. But we got to realize we are all a part of this great nation. And the people is who makes it work, not the leaders up in Washington. They are just a voice for us. And when they're not doing what we want them to do, we have the right to take them out and put somebody else in. And it's time that we start. It seems like the oil companies have hostage the whole Congress, and and we the people can take that away from them. We can put people there that we can tell them, either you vote right or you won't be there next term. That's one great thing about this country. And so the corn ethanol does not compete with sugarcane or other crops that are sugar. It's another step, and I'm going to read you that as we go further here. But it just blows me away that people can get up there. And I talked to a lady in Washington yesterday, that's the assistant of one of the high-ranking men. And she told me, I said, corn ethanol is not the right way to do it. She said, that's a matter of opinion. I said, it's not a matter of opinion, it's fact. I'm going to mail her one of these letters that I'm reading, y'all, and see what she thinks then. I'm going to continue on. Ethanol produced from sugarcane is cheaper to process because it doesn't need to make the transformation from carbohydrates to sugar, which is then fermented to make ethanol. Otherwise, the ethanol is basically the same. What do you know about that? There are many other factors to take into account that give countries such as Brazil an edge on the ethanol market. Next paragraph. Brazil has the largest amount of open land that is used for or could be converted to farmland. Brazil also has a very low cost of labor. It is suspected that slave labor, I don't know about that, and I don't even know what to put that in here. A third advantage that Brazilian farmers have on the ethanol market is the tropical climate, which allows it to be highly effective at sugarcane production. Given all these advantages, the American farmer would find it difficult to compete in the ethanol market if the ethanol restrictions were removed. Well, in my opinion, that's crazy. I'll go on down here, and it talks about that we could be addicted to ethanol like we are oil. It's a lot better to be addicted to ethanol. At least we're not polluting the whole atmosphere with the way we are with oil. Maybe a little bit less profit for the oil companies. So be it. But, folks, what it takes is numbers. I've learned that through other issues I've had even here in the city of Houston. We've got to have numbers. You need to tell all your friends. You need to get on the internet. You need to write letters to the president, to the congressmen, to the senators, to all the representatives. And that's what it takes. And eventually, we can take back control away from the money market. Money talks. There's no doubt about that. They only get one term, and then we can put them out. And sooner or later, we can find Christians that will do what's right because it is right, not because it generates the most money in their pocket. I'm going to continue on here. Even with the tariff in place, Brazil can still ship ethanol to the United States and make money in cases of a particularly good year in sugarcane production. Think about how crazy that is. They can ship their ethanol 4,000 miles away or further, depending on where they are or where it comes to in the U.S., and pay the tariff and still compete and do better. So now what the U.S. is telling them that we won't let you spend more than 7% of whatever we did last year. That's crazy, folks. It's just absolute crazy. When we're trying to be green, we're trying to do things that are environmentally correct and not just completely keep ruining the whole world with all the pollution that we're doing. So it just takes everyone getting on fire and doing something about it. And the way this country works is all we have to do is get out and campaign for people that will run the country the way that's right, the way that the Lord would want us to. I'm going to continue on here. The President Bush visited Brazil in the first leg of his '07 South American tour. During this visit, he spoke with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva about the restriction placed on Brazilian ethanol. President Bush has considered removing some restrictions on imported ethanol in an effort to lower the price of gasoline in the United States. Well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? All companies don't want that, though. This has been met with great opposition from members of the Congress who want to support American farmers at home. I'm not saying that we can't support American farmers, but let's be smart about it. Let's not be stupid. And just because that we have some people who want to grow corn, well then we're going to grow corn and make ethanol out of it, even though we can't compete with anybody. And I've been studying now how many of these ethanol plants that the government funded, the people have gone broke because they can't sell the ethanol because it's priced too high. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that we have to compete. We have to compete globally. We no longer can have a fence around the United States, and that's what the unions and everybody else needs to realize. I'm going to continue on. Here's President Bush saying here. I do not believe that it would be a good idea to open the United States up to a flood of imported ethanol because this would only make us dependent on foreign ethanol instead of foreign oil. What would that hurt, Mr. Bush? I, I think that was absolutely a very incorrect statement that he made. I do believe that if the United States wishes to grow our ethanol industry, it will be necessary to make changes in the crop that we use to produce it. Well, what do you know? That's absolutely true. But the Congress and the corn people aren't getting it. Currently, nearly all of the ethanol in the U.S. that the U.S. produces comes from corn. That is just not smart. Is the nicest way I can say that. If the ethanol industry pushed more toward extracting ethanol from crops such as sugarcane and soybeans, we may be able to lower the production cost and raise the efficiency of ethanol production at home. That's what we need to work on, folks. Not just because the government has put money in some of this thing, and then when that money runs out, the plant goes out of business and they have to sell out. I talked to an auction company that has sold some 70 ethanol plants in the last few years at auction because they can't make it. People started with that, it was a great idea. Corn is not the thing to use for ethanol. That's just the plain truth of it. And the quicker that everyone realizes that and quits pumping money just because the farmers want to grow corn somewhere else, the corn needs to be grown, but it needs to be grown for food, and for feeding the livestock and other things, and sugar cane, and then sugar beets and other crops that just are solid sugar should be grown for energy. And the quicker that we can kind of get it together and get rid of all the politics on it, which maybe never happened, and start trying to be smart. We got to be smart. So I just really encourage everyone to do your best to talk, to spread the word, to try to get support. Find somebody that wants to run for office that you can support, that will do things right, that will use the Bible and ask God to help them and give us wisdom. And this can be a better place. This can be a better world. We have to decide that we want to make it that way. And so I'm going to leave it with that. And I just really encourage you. This is Delll York with his Fuels.